So Matt Gaetz went on one of these stupid far-right so-called news shows, and he gave us the most hilarious claim about vaccines that I think I've ever heard. Take a look.
Well, still the best vaccine we've found is Mother Nature's vaccine. It's contracting the virus. That is what has provided the greatest protection, the most durable protection over the longest period of time.
Getting COVID is a strategy to get vaccinated, according to Matt Gaetz. It provides the best protection. You know what else it provides, Matt? The most deaths. So let me show you guys some numbers here, some official numbers. Been 49 million cases in the U.S., 787,000 deaths in the U.S., almost 800,000 deaths from COVID. Worldwide, there's been 265 million cases of COVID, 5.25 million deaths from this virus. And by the way, just so you know, official counts are always underestimated. The real number for both the U.S. and the world is actually way higher, because we always lag way behind with our capacity to really know how many cases are out there. French study of over 22 million people finds vaccines cut severe COVID risk by 90%. 90%. I know, like, sometimes I think there's no way somebody's making this claim that they're actually making, because it would take quite literally 2 seconds of thought to debunk it. But no, he made the claim. Mother Nature's vaccine is the best vaccine. Now, the reason why he's saying this is because there are some studies that indicate you get the most immunity if you get COVID and then you beat it. Because the way that the vaccines work is, so there's a number of different, there's the mRNA one, Pfizer, Moderna, and then there's it's an adenovirus one. That's the Johnson & Johnson, that's AstraZeneca, which is the British vaccine. And the way that they work, the way that they differ is the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson take an adenovirus, which is a standard cold virus, and they tweak it to mimic the look of COVID. And so then when it gets inside your body learns to, your immune system creates the antibodies to defeat something that is the shape of COVID, a virus that is the shape of COVID. Therefore, when you actually get COVID, you already have the immunity to it. Now, by the same technology, mRNA vaccines work a little bit different, but it's the same idea behind it, except they're not tweaking a cold virus, it's mRNA technology. So the way these vaccines work, since it's not exactly like the virus that's getting into your body, it's not 100% effective. But as I just showed you, it's 90% effective against severe illness, hospitalization, and death. That's a very, very successful vaccine. It's just not foolproof. Well, obviously, if you get COVID and you defeat it, you literally defeated COVID. So you have better immunity. But the thing is, of course, you have to defeat COVID. And obviously, there's almost 800,000 Americans who did not defeat it. And it is deadly. Whereas the vaccines, they're not deadly. Even if you grant all of the crazy cases from VAERS, which is the adverse side effects, the adverse symptoms that come from the vaccines, even if you grant them all the things that are in VAERS, and I don't, by the way, I think a lot of that stuff is anti-vaxxers who are putting stuff in that's not even true. But even if you grant them that, you still have way worse effects from COVID. From COVID. People talk about, oh my God, there's some instances of heart issues from people who get the vaccines. Well, there's even more heart issues from people who get COVID. COVID, it's sort of amazing how it works as a virus because it affects so many people differently and it affects all these different parts of the body. I mean, there's something called COVID toe. There's a lot of 10% of people or over 10% of people who get COVID have conjunctivitis in their eye, which indicates that it came in through the eye. There was a study of rhesus monkeys that showed it came in through the eye. Some people have congestion issues. Some people have throat issues. Some people are totally asymptomatic. Some people literally struggle to breathe and can't breathe. Some people hallucinate. There's all these different ways that it affects you. Even if you grant all of the negative side effects, the anecdotal claims from people, you should still get the vaccine because there's still way more worse effects from COVID-19. This isn't that hard to figure out. This really isn't. But he looks at, in a vacuum, he looks at the idea that you have perfect immunity after you get COVID and says, well, that's why it's the best vaccine. But if there's almost 800,000 deaths in America from that, is that really an anti-COVID strategy to get COVID? I mean, how dumb do you have to be? And then, by the way, let's be clear, there's also been different variants. There was original COVID-19. There was Delta variant. Now it's Omicron variant. So maybe you had original COVID, maybe you didn't get Delta, and then maybe you can get Omicron. So you want to just keep getting a deadly virus and hope you survive it every time, or hope you don't have severe complications from it every time? That's your strategy. Now, if you get the vaccine, you have 90% protection from severe illness, hospitalization, and death. Guys, this isn't an open question. We have answers here. And if you don't want the answers, it's because you don't want to know the answers. It's because people, and this is what happens, the thing that the anti-vaxxers always retreat to, fundamentally, is anecdotes. There's a difference between the micro picture and the macro picture. And by the way, for every anecdote that you give that's anti-vaccine, I can give you 5 that are pro-vaccine. So if you don't want to play the anecdote game, I don't want to play the anecdote game. But if you're going to play it, all right, we'll play it, and you'll be defeated in the anecdote game. But that's the thing. People always fall back on the anecdotes for the anti-vaccine stuff when I'm begging people, look at the macro data. That's what being scientific and intelligent is about. Look at the macro data to form your picture of the world. So by the way, I originally got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which unfortunately data has come out since I got it, which indicates that it really is the worst of the 3 vaccines that we have here in the U.S. So efficacy after, I forget how many months, but efficacy dropped to 3% protection from getting COVID, but 70% protection from severe illness, hospitalization, and death. So now that is not the case with the mRNA vaccines. The Pfizer is, the protection stays very high with Pfizer, and with Moderna, it's even greater. It's even higher. There's actually a very clear vaccine hierarchy now, and Moderna is the best, Pfizer is the second in the U.S., and then Johnson & Johnson is the third. So I unfortunately had gotten the least effective vaccine. By the way, there are benefits to it as well. So it's a 1-shot vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson, not a 2-shot vaccine. You were considered fully immunized after 1. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted that one and got it. Also, it's easier to store. You don't need to store it at like literally negative temperatures, which you do with the Pfizer and the Moderna. With the Johnson & Johnson, you could just store it in a regular refrigerator and it lasts a long time. So there were benefits to it, and it really was for, people in the country and populations that wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed to show up for the second shot, like homeless folks and whatnot. And so I ended up getting that Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I saw the new data. It says only 3% protection from getting COVID, but 70% protection from severe illness, hospitalization, and death. And so because I took that third best vaccine, I did decide to get a booster. And I ended up getting a Moderna booster 2 days ago now. And I'm happy to announce to you guys, I've had basically 0 symptoms. So none of because it is very common. If you get the vaccine, you might have, like a rash on your arm is one thing that a lot of people get, headaches, fatigue, a low-grade fever. The only side effect I had was just the sore arm. And that's it, And even with the Johnson & Johnson last time, I had a little bit more than that. I had sore arm and then also like a headache 24 hours later for that lasted like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then it was done and I was fine. But this, I didn't even get the headache. With my booster, I just had, all I had was a little bit of a sore arm, and that's it. And so, it very simple thing, and now, my protection shot up even more. And thankfully, the stuff we're learning about the Omicron variant is that it's no more deadly than the original COVID and Delta, but it just is more transmissible. But there hasn't been any death, at least yet, from Omicron, so that is some potential good news. But now I have a little bit more protection. That makes me happy, and I certainly am not going to use the Matt Gaetz strategy of just get COVID. And now if I happen to get it, I'm overwhelmingly likely to just have the fucking sniffles, which makes me happy. Whereas if you're not vaccinated, well, buckle up. Buckle up, because many people will recover just fine, but some of them don't. Some of them have long-term symptoms. Some of them die, and just don't want to take any chances. Don't want to roll the dice when the evidence is crystal clear about the fact that the vaccines work. So it's amazing that somebody can make that claim with a straight face this deep into the pandemic. Getting COVID is the best anti-COVID strategy. Mother Nature's vaccine is the best vaccine. No, I would say any of the actual vaccines are a better vaccine than Mother Nature's vaccine, which has killed over 5 million people in the world and almost 800,000 Americans.